Hello, everybody, and welcome to an extra special Bananas Ape-tastic episode of Press YYZ, your favorite Canadian gaming podcast. You can watch the show weekly on youtube.com/PressYYZ, live here on twitch.tv/PressYYZ, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. EST, or listen to it on your own time on your podcast service of choice. We appreciate however it is you choose to support the show, but if you don't have any loonies or toonies or whatever denomination of currency you have in your country to spare, it's all good because we will be here no matter what. Before we get started, remember, as always, to be good to each other. Discrimination of any kind, be it over one's race, gender, sexual orientation, or anything else, is wrong and will not be tolerated within our community. I have a intimate yet nonetheless spectacular cast of characters with me here today. Number one, the frightening, his head's in the clouds, the inverted, the man of many props, AJ Fraser.
You ever get the feeling like you're being watched?
Look out, there's someone behind you.
Oh dear. That voice, which you just so happen to hear alerting AJ to him being watched, is a special, extra special guest that you've heard on Press YYZ in the past, albeit not on a mainline episode. It is the one and only Patrick TheLawMorris.
Hey, everybody. Good to be back. Thanks for having me.
Cool. And rounding out the crew for this evening is the shadowy Belland, the self-appointed H of HR, and finally, the phenomenal, the one, the only Nathan McInerney.
Please insert dirty limerick in post.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Before we get started, let's do a quick little bit of housekeeping. Friendly reminder of today's Transgender Day of Visibility. A huge shout out to all of the trans and non-binary people in and outside of our community. You guys are awesome. And it goes without saying that we all here hope for a day where the rest of the world feels the same about you. In terms of some of the content we've been up to recently, Nathan, you streamed PGA Tour 2K21 over on our Twitch channel this past Thursday, and I tuned in for a little bit of it, and I can confirm that it was a good, fun-ass time. Can we expect any more streams from you on our channel in the near future?
Yes, I will be streaming tomorrow. It is still TBA, could be more PGA Tour. I might stream some Fall Guys. Maybe if we can get some people interested in some Fall Guys, but that's what I'm considering right now. So if anybody has other suggestions, I'd be down for it. So let me know.
Cool. Recently, I myself have been playing a fair bit of Avengers on the Press YYZ Twitch channel as well. I've been squatting up with good old Mitch George, who, as of lately, has been missing in action. We've been putting his face on milk cartons here, there, and everywhere to try to find him, but no such luck yet. As of next week, I am going to be taking a break from Avengers. In fact, next week, I'm actually not going to be streaming at all on Monday because next Monday is going to be Easter Monday, and I want to enjoy the holiday to myself. But the Monday afterwards, I'm going to be starting a brand new experience. What it is something that you probably will know of if you currently are looking at the Twitch stream or have watched my last Avengers stream because I announced it live there. But if you're not watching this on Twitch or YouTube, or did not watch my Avengers stream, you need not worry because I will be announcing it next week. In addition to that, YYZ Video's review of The Incredibles is currently now up on YouTube. Be sure to go and give that video a listen or a watch on whatever podcast service of choice you should choose, or on YouTube. The crew, as always, is doing a phenomenal job there. And I want to mention that you guys should all definitely look forward to the Ratatouille in review that they are going to be doing next, because there may or may not be a very special guest on that episode. TBD on that. Finally, last but not least, I wanted to just briefly mention that there's nothing else on housekeeping. So this is the first time ever to peel a little bit behind the scenes that I've made a point of writing down all the housekeeping stuff we need to get out of the way at the beginning. And I had it in my head that there were just so many things that we had to get off our chest, but lo and behold, we're at the end of it. So without further ado, let's get into what is new this week, what we've been up to before we head into our topic of the show later today, which is going to be centering around Donkey Kong Country. Patrick, I want to start off with you because you've been playing a game that came out very recently by the name of It Takes Two.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess real quick, I'm basically perpetually in a state of playing Apex, but that's like, we've all talked about Apex.
Well,
It Takes Two.
We will talk about Apex a little bit later. I wanted to lead with the new experience first.
That's good because I wanted to jump on that too. I love this game. It was, I was aware of it, but it wasn't even on my radar as far as like, one to watch. After seeing that it was a Joseph Ferris game, and it's Hazelight still, and like, then suddenly because I loved A Way Out, I decided, you know what? Yeah.
Who are you playing it with?
I'm playing it with my wife.
Awesome.
So I was going to play it with a friend, but then the more and more I looked into it, and it's a co-op experience about a married couple fixing their marriage, I decided it would be much more appropriate to play it with my wife. We are 3 chapters in. We're about probably about 4 hours in at this point, and it is just absolutely fantastic. The co-op is, I would say, like, the dynamic nature of the co-op. God, it's honestly the best co-op experience I've had since Portal 2. It's
Wow.
just that good.
So, okay. So I've heard very good things about this, but also mixed things about how approachable and accessible it is necessarily to. Okay, you mentioned you play it with your wife. Does your wife play a lot of video games like I suspect you do?
So I would say no. I would call her a beginner.
Okay, so yeah, I because this is something that I'm definitely interested in getting my girlfriend to play with me potentially, but I have that little bit of a hesitancy in terms of like, is she going to understand it? And I've heard mixed things about that. So,
so to answer your question, she has played a lot of Mario. She played a lot of 3D World on the Wii U. She played a lot of it again on the Switch. She has played a lot of Crash Bandicoot, and she played about 500 hours of Animal Crossing last year. But
That's
like Animal Crossing, not that much Animal Crossing.
Shut up, Nathan.
I'm at over 700.
Whoa. So, I mean, I played 15 and I was done with that game. That's 15 with no zeros at the end. But no, so I mean, I would say that she's a beginner as far as like mechanically her capabilities and whatnot. Animal Crossing is definitely a game that you don't really have to have really a whole lot of skill. And she's doing totally fine. Like she's doing really well. There are some of the platforming sections that are a little bit more challenging, and that I'm waiting for her. But it is a situation in which it's like I'm happy to wait for her. And there's only been one time where she's said, I just want you to do this for me, and just handed me her controller.
Got it.
But overall, absolutely would recommend it. It's really, really awesome. It's an incredible experience, and the characterization so far into the game, it seems to be a little more of a slow burn than I was expecting, but like it's really, really good. And there was this one scene, I'm not going to spoil anything, but like this one scene that we just played last night that was just really heart-wrenching, and I was not expecting to feel this bad for this particular character. But it hurt.
You mentioning at the very top that this is like one of the greatest co-op experiences since Portal 2. That brings back really weird memories for me specifically, because Portal 2 was a game that I actually beat the co-op mode in entirely by myself using like 2 controllers that I was controlling at once. I had a friend who afterwards chastised me for not doing it with him, but to be honest, this is the kind of friend that probably would not have been able to get his act together to do it with me. I still thoroughly enjoyed it, by the way, in co-op mode. It didn't like ruin or let down my overall feelings on the game. But I'm like, should I mention that I have half a mind to play this game in co-op? But I don't think I will. I think if I ever do play this game, it'll probably be with somebody else.
Yeah. So this game is it requires a lot of things to happen in tandem, and so throughout the stages, throughout the chapters of the game, it gives each player their own unique mechanic. And so, like early in the game, I think it's the first chapter. Early in the game, you're given, May, the character that my wife is playing, is given a hammer that she can use as sort of a hook. And Cody is given nails that he can throw and recall. And Cody ends up throwing nails and May swings on them. And so there are things that, and then like, but he has a limited number of nails. And so there are times when May is swinging that Cody has to be calling nails and throwing them. And it's really a masterclass in that, forcing players to use different mechanics in harmony together.
Cool. AJ.
Hi.
You've been playing some more Skyrim as of recent. Am I correct?
I have. I've been putting my Series X to very good use. playing Skyrim, a nice 10-year-old game at this point. Yeah. Really kind of quick update on where I am in that. I hadn't previously I had not quite climbed the mountain to meet the Greybeards, High Hrothgar. That's the place. But I've since done that, and I've since kind of explored around a little bit more. And I think I'm about to become a vampire, mostly because I don't have any potions of cure disease, and I am actively choosing not to fast travel. I'm trying to take in the sights, and I'm not going to every place at the moment because, inventory limits are a pain in the ass. And I don't have mods enabled because that disables achievements. So, I'm currently enjoying that quite a bit. I've only killed 2 dragons. The one tutorial dragon you kill, and the one of them after it attacked me as I was climbing down the steps from the mountain there, and I royally kicked his teeth in because I'm the Dragonborn Dovahkiin.
Of course.
Did you throw anything off the mountain?
I have save scum a lot of things in that on purpose, just to play around with the mechanics and see what happens. What I'll do is anytime I hear the a town's guard do the arrow to the knee line, I will quick save, kill him, load back in, just because I can.
It's a matter of principle.
Yeah, and I did some experimenting with, hey, I see a river down there. Can I use my Would shout, which launches me forward, and land in the river? Spoilers, I could not at the time. And
okay.
Well.
Tried a couple different angles, couldn't do it.
How many times did that frost troll kill you on your way up to High Hrothgar?
So actually fun story about that. So he killed me the first time. I remember in the past when I first played Skyrim on the 360, actually kicking the crap out of him the first time he snuck up on me. So I don't know what I did differently. I am playing without a shield this time and using destruction spells and conjuration spells along with an axe. So maybe the lack of armor there is what kind of did me in. And the inability to block as well, that probably doesn't help. But it was funny because after he killed me, I was just like, okay, is there a way I can sneak around him? And then I ended up kind of, for lack of a better term, skyrimming my way up the mountain.
Yep.
And kind of getting around him. And then he just sort of phased into a rock and couldn't get at me after that. So I kind of cheesed it that way. But on the way back down, he like kind of reset his spawn point and surprised me and got me again. So I had to adjust my autosave point from 15 minutes to every 5 minutes when I entered my menu, so that I didn't lose so much time anytime something like that happened.
So he got you on the way down, which is not what happens to most players.
Yeah, he got me on the way up the first time. Then I respawned, got around him, and then on the way back down, he got me again.
Vengeance.
Jerk. Exactly. So, yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's still decent. Still buggy as hell, though.
How does, I was about to say Blizzard, but that's not exactly the correct company. How does Bethesda's nearly 10-year-old Wunderkind compare to a documentary about Blockbuster that came out just not that long ago?
Yeah, so my girlfriend and I wanted to watch a movie on the weekend, and we decided to watch The Last Blockbuster, which is a documentary about literally the last Blockbuster in Bend, Oregon. It's still open to this day, even post-pandemic. They were able to raise enough funds, with the rumors of this movie and everything coming out, and just the nostalgia factor for it from people all over the world. They have a merch website and everything. But it's a very good, interesting documentary, not only on the history of renting movies and what that experience was like, but specifically in recent years, how this Blockbuster has somehow survived, and how they're not the current owners of it are not going to give up on it no matter what. So,
and go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'll be quick. I was just going to say, are they officially licensed by Blockbuster or a franchise store, or how do they still exist when the entire chain shut down?
So there's a satellite. Is it Dish Network? Technically owns the Blockbuster name and license and all that stuff, and they kind of go into it on how kind of negotiating that still works, especially when it's the last one for what is presumably a dead service, if you will.
Yeah.
But they license it out. It's a real Blockbuster.
Wow. So where did you stream that?
Where did I stream that? I forgot. Holy crap! I forget. Was it on Netflix? Might have been Netflix.
Okay, I'll look. I have an app for that.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it. I don't know
Netflix.
if I've ever been inside a Blockbuster. Now, that doesn't mean I've never been inside a video rental store. I have. But here in Quebec, the video rental store of choice is Videotron. So Blockbuster is never really a thing that was part of my life, even though I, enjoyed and experienced many of these same pleasures of a Blockbuster, just in, a different format and a different brand.
Wow. So when I was a kid, I spent, literally hundreds of hours at Blockbuster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because it was to the point where it's it's an experience that I still miss, because it's so much of it's so much more than just going and choosing a movie. It's you got the experience at Videotron, but man, I spent so much time discussing movies and shooting the shit about video games and everything with the employees, and it's just it's something that I really miss. And there's as long as we're mentioning alternatives, there is a chain of used it's a chain of used stores They sell used books, movies, and video games and records, actually, called Bull Moose in New England. And if you're ever in New England, like particularly Maine, New Hampshire area, definitely look up and hit up a Bull Moose. It was very much like the Blockbuster experience, but you're just buying the things instead of renting. And while I was living in Maine, it was definitely how I got really into collecting. So my collection of video games is pushing 600 at this point, and most of it is because of Bull Moose.
Where I live in Ontario, I'm just north of Toronto, and here in town we had a Blockbuster, which actually is now, I think, a jewelry store, but they kept the shape of the Blockbuster sign.
Oh, really? The ticket,
and the ticket and fit their logo and stuff into it. But then we also had a Jumbo Video here in town, which, the logo was an elephant, and they served popcorn, and I really appreciated that. My dad lives in California, and anytime I'd go out to visit him, there was also a Blockbuster in his small town, but also within walking distance, a Hollywood Video. And I remember participating at the Game Crazy that was attached into the Hollywood Video, participating in like my first Smash Brothers tournament there. I came in first the first round and then got my teeth kicked in the third round. No, the Blockbuster, actually, my dad got me and it's currently in my garage here. From that Blockbuster, the big window display for Pokemon Snap.
Oh, sweet.
And I have it currently rolled up in my garage right now. It's probably a little damaged from when they took took it off the window and the tape came off of it, but yeah, it's a pretty good nostalgia piece, and it's been sitting in my garage for, oh god, it's probably close to 20 years at this point.
Yeah, I want to say that's something that you could potentially sell for some decent.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, maybe I should give it to the last Blockbuster.
Oh yeah, that'd be really cool. That'd be really cool.
Just load it to them so it's yours.
Yeah,
man, I feel like I could totally do a whole show on Blockbusters and rental stores, but like I think that the last one they also rent out as an Airbnb to like make money, and they have a pull out couch and everything and like a CRT TV and a VCR.
I don't think that is not at all something that comes up in this documentary. That one specifically, I think that is somebody bought something that used to be and turned it into a
gotcha.
Airbnb. Yeah, I think that's something completely different. Yeah, so it's definitely not the one the documentary's about. So
okay, I'm gonna go watch that for sure.
Yeah, it's very good.
All right, pretty cool. You mentioned how the last Blockbuster is apparently also on Airbnb. This is a article from the official Airbnb website. Store manager lists world's last Blockbuster on Airbnb for local residents. It's impossible to forget the feelings, smells, and sounds of a Blockbuster store's possibility-filled aisles. This summer, the world's last Blockbuster store manager, Sandy Harding, who has kept the Bend, Oregon establishment running like butter since 2004 and has preserved the same spirit that was once found in locations around the world, will be listing the store on Airbnb for a very special reason, in appreciation for all that the local community has recently done to support the last of its kind during these uncertain times. This end of summer sleepovers will offer movie lovers in Deschutes County the last, not sure if that's how it's pronounced, the last chance for a 90s themed stay to relive the bygone Friday nights tradition just as we remember it. And so yeah,
that did not come up at all in the documentary.
But, yeah, that's a shame because that's
maybe it came after.
Maybe
that's also possible. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool. If the impression that I get is that this was a limited time thing, but if they ever do it again, you might want to hit that up if you live in Deschutes County. Again, not sure if that's how it's pronounced. Nathan, a little event by the name of WrestleMania 37 is coming up very, very soon. And
Tis.
you've been getting in the season recently with a little game by the name of WWE 2K20, correct?
Yes. I'm going to make a very controversial statement.
Uh-oh.
WWE 2K20 is an okay game.
All right, you're banned.
Where are you playing it?
On PS5.
What console? Okay.
So it's the PS4 version, obviously emulated on PS5. So I've only had one. I wish I've saved I had two wrestlers combined into one wrestler. They were like a weird hybrid blob. And that's only happened once though in like 30 hours of play. So while the game has some glitches, it's like they're small and in between now. As I said, I've only gotten one after 30 hours of play. But I was playing the story mode, and the story mode is fantastic. Essentially, it focuses on both a boy and a girl create a character that you make at the beginning of the game, and they're getting ready for their Hall of Fame speech that they're going to do. And they reminisce with wrestlers before and during the speech about their history of going through the industry. And that's kind of how each chapter of the game works. And they set up the moving through the time periods from them training in Calgary, not at the dungeon, but at a wrestling gym, to work in the indies, to get into NXT, to go into main roster, different events like that. At the same time, during this, somehow they managed to go to hell to try and find the Undertaker and battle a bunch of evil or like undead wrestlers. The Royal Rumble happens, and the main boy wins the Royal Rumble, but he finishes 30, and a last-minute entrant comes out, and you hear this presidential music, and Secret Service are coming out, and they're like, is the president going to enter the Royal Rumble? And I'm like, who's the president? And then the Rock's music hit, and they're like, it is the president. The president's joining the Royal Rumble.
I'm somebody who knows squat about wrestling, and I actually found that funny. Like, I actually understood that. I'm like, I get it.
And that sounds so wrestling too. Like,
yeah,
yes, pure wrestling.
Samoa Joe gets a bionic arm at some point in this history, and it just like the way they've like, it's fun and fantastical, but in like a completely good way. And people were ripping the story mode when it came out. I remember that. I've had a lot of fun with it, and I think it's just off the walls in the right way. And there's like 15 hours of gameplay to play as you switch between the male and the female during the story mode and complete it.
Wow. So no one has ever even come close to selling me on any of the WWE 2K games since 2K16, I think. But that you got me close here with the Rock being president entering the Rumble.
Like, the story mode's fun. Check out the DLC. All the DLC is like themed. Like, one's a cyberpunk themed one, one's a horror themed one, one's like a Mad Max Fallout themed one, and they're all like different characters that you would like unlock in the game with stories that take place in those eras and like rings and everything that are like that.
This actually sounds really cool.
They went off the wall with the game. As Kozi was showing the video earlier, that was I was doing just there's ladder trees, kind of like in Mortal Kombat, where you'll fight,
because it's a fun ass video.
So there's basically you'll have different fights on a ladder, kind of like when you go up the Mortal Kombat ladder, but there'll be different stipulations on each of them, like you can take more head damage, or you like the opponent has this finisher stored. This was a big head mode, which I didn't even know the game had. And big head mode in this game is fun.
Some games used to call big head mode DK mode.
Oh, segue.
A little bit of a preemptive segue, but I appreciate the connection. No, I appreciate the connection.
I'm always early. Just ask my girlfriend.
Oh, God.
Got me.
But yeah, no, it's a really, I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's 2 years old. It obviously had its issues when it came out. There's no question about that. 2 years later, it looks like they've fixed most of those major bugs. It's still not a great game in any perpetuity, like in terms of combat, but like it does what it needs to. It's fun. I'm pretty decent at it. And I'm enjoying myself. I guess it's making me smile regularly, which that means I'm liking it. So Yeah,
for sure.
plus The Rock was president and had Secret Service come out, and he joined the Rumble.
Which, after Donald Trump, anything is possible, right? So
I still think he might run one day.
We'll see.
Wouldn't be surprised. And this is the first one that wasn't done by Ukes, I think, right?
No, so yeah, it's fully done by, I don't remember what the company's name is.
I think it was Visual
Effects. No, Visual. You're right. It's Visual something. They plaster that logo in the game.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so
Ukes left to go do that AEW thing, I think.
Yeah, Visual Concepts.
Okay.
Yeah, well, they left before AEW was a thing. So, but they are working on the AEW game. Kenny Omega is a huge gamer.
Yeah.
So he's going to make it. It's going to be like the old No Mercy games. So that being said, in the meantime, with WrestleMania season, I'm enjoying 2K20, and I kind of want to get the platinum on it, just to say I platinumed 2K20.
Is that a difficult endeavor, or is it just like a lot of grinding?
It says it's like 30 to 50 hours, and I've already put 30 hours in. So I have an expectation that I probably got a lot more to play to get it. But I don't think it's too hard. So we'll see. I'll be continuing to work on that over the next few weeks.
Cool. I mean, it sounds like you've really been enjoying this game. Have you also, however, been enjoying another game that you've recently been digging into, which is Watch Dogs Legion?
Oh, yeah, that's right. So I started that. So Watch Dogs Legion was free on the last weekend. They were just doing a free, try it for free. And I've been really curious about it because I love Watch Dogs too, but there's a lot of negative press about Watch Dogs Legion. Not negative, but like the reviews weren't solid for it. So I played the introductory level. The problem is they only let you play the PS4 version, even if you're on PS5 for the trial. So I was trying it out. I'm like, okay, so it's still like graphically, it's still good. And I finished the first main mission or starter mission, and then did a little bit of exploring around the city. Didn't put too much time into it. And it was like, you know what? I do like this. I'm going to purchase it. They had it on sale, so I bought the Ultimate Edition for like $60 with all the DLC that'll come out for it. And got the PS5 version, and then restarted the game to make sure I got all the trophies, because I could move my save file over, I think. But there's an issue with those trophies popping if you move your save files. So, so I jumped into Watch Dogs. It's a good game so far. I like it. I like the hacking. Don't love the fact that you don't have like a main character.
Yeah, I've heard that's a pretty major criticism around the game.
Yeah, but the abilities are fun, and you can do some really cool stuff with it. So I want to get deeper into it and understand more, but it does scratch an itch that I'm enjoying, that I need scratched.
Cool.
So, yep. Cool. I'll have more to say about that coming up too.
Sounds great. I want to just take a quick second to briefly touch on a game that I know touched all of our lives last year, but I know this year we've been a little bit more quiet on, and it's Fall Guys. I checked out a little bit of Fall Guys Season 4, which takes place in the year 4001. Everything is just as it is that you previously remember, but now some Fall Guys have Kizuna Ai costumes and weird sci-fi costumes and the like, and it is not perhaps as annoying as it once was previously, on account of the fact that most of the mini games are pretty new now, and so the people that previously were skilled at the older mini games are not as skilled at these newer ones. But it is still the Fall Guys that you know and love and hate from before, albeit with some cool anti-gravity stuff. I played this with a group of friends a couple of nights ago that hosts another podcast I listen to from time to time. And we actually played the new groups mode in this game, where basically you can team up, and basically based on your cumulative performance as a team, you can like advance together to the next round. Even if some of your teammates die, you'll be like revived on the following round. But we found that to be pretty challenging to manage, especially if some of us on our team were not especially skilled. I know, Nathan, that you were really in love with Fall Guys back in 2020. Have you stepped back into it since the launch of Season 4?
Yeah, actually, I played a little bit. I got to try the battery mini game. I didn't because you can do playlists and select just like the new mini games, and I just did a few rounds of just all the playlists. So I got to try the battery mode where you have to light the tiles up the color of your team while holding the batteries. So, and it was honestly, it was good. It looks like they've made some good quality of life improvements to the game. There's an Among Us costume now built into the season pass.
Yeah,
that you can unlock. So yeah, no, it's good. It's Fall Guys. I'm curious to try the squad mode that, like you were just talking about.
I think I still wish it. I haven't picked it up since launch. I think I still wish it played a little bit more like Gang Beasts.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it was funny that Kozi was like, it's not as annoying because of the skilled players, and I never found it annoying because I was one of those skilled players. That was pretty good at the game. I think before I put it down had like 60 wins.
Oh wow.
So that's dedication. Go ahead.
I really wish the Fall Guys had launched with the squad mode, because I played a bit at launch and my wife enjoyed it, but to me it just felt like playing with friends just didn't feel any different. It didn't change the game at all. And so, and it's a really fun and funny game, but I just felt like it was a very solo experience. And so now that they have the squads, I definitely think I'm going to re-download it and give it a try. Maybe jump back in, because I think the multiplayer aspect of it was what was lacking in such a like silly and really, really fun and cute game.
Totally. Speaking of multiplayer experiences that make some people want to scream, Patrick, you've been playing a game that is very near and dear to my heart that I was playing a lot of earlier this year, but that I've fallen off of a bit recently. Apex Legends. How's it feeling?
So I have, full disclosure, I played a lot of Apex at launch, and then I fell off of it around towards the end of season 1, I would say. And then I dipped back in for a little while, like 30 or 50 games in season 4. And then I didn't come back until the very end of season 7. But since then I've played, I've played a pretty significant amount. I love Apex. I honestly, it's so fun. And like, I'm not really competitive with my friends, so I don't like to play shooters like Call of Duty and whatnot, but the stakes in Apex and the loop of Apex is I think is just so enjoyable. So no, I've really been loving it. I'm excited to see what we get in season 9. I'm glad that Maggie's gone. Maggie was there. There was some lore built around the new season 8 character, where a childhood friend of his turned rival took over the announcing and was messing with the ring. So it was it's been really good. I've really enjoyed it. I'm getting some wins. I play with a lot of my friends, at the very least 2 nights a week, more often 3 or 4 nights a week. Just play through some Apex. I main Watson, and I'm just all about Watson, and it is quickly climbing the ladder of my favorite multiplayer shooter experiences, just based on the amount of fun that I'm having with my friends.
Like I said at the top, this is a game that I've fallen off of a bit recently because, between Press YYZ, between Kozi Bear's cooking, there's just a lot of stuff that I need to tend to, a lot of pots that I need to stir. But once I get back to Apex, which is a matter of if not when, I'm definitely going to hit you up about squatting up, because I've been meaning to find more people to actually squat up with in ranked mode. And if you're down to do so, I'm down to do so.
Absolutely. So I haven't ever actually played ranked. I just like to keep it casual, but I'm totally down to like expand my horizons. And I'm getting to the point where like I'm watching a lot of YouTube videos and I'm reading a lot on Reddit about the meta and everything about the game. And so I think that I'm getting to the level where it's like, yeah, I should probably start playing ranked, because I'm like, my friends and I are consistently placing top 5. Like if we decide, okay, we're going to drop smart, we're going to play smart, we place, consistently top 5 pretty easily. So yeah, no, I'm absolutely down to play some ranked for sure. When you decide to come back to the game, let's do it.
Cool. All right. With that out of the way, it's time for us to head into our topic of the show, which for tonight is going to be Patch Notes, the Donkey Kong Country series. So, before we get started, let's just give our viewers a quick little introduction as to what Patch Notes is. Previously, you might remember that we used to have a segment on the show called Video Game Rehab, which is typically about video game franchises and whatnots that were in some form of serious trouble, like Google Stadia or Mass Effect. Not too long ago, we decided to change the name of it to the more neutral Patch Notes so that we can be a little bit more inclusive of franchises and video game things that haven't really experienced an obvious decline. And tonight's is going to be all focused on Donkey Kong, which is going to be interesting because, I would say of all the previous video game franchises and things that we've talked about in the past, Donkey Kong Country has not really experienced that much of an obvious decline. I mean, if anything, many would argue that the last Donkey Kong Country game to be released, Tropical Freeze, is one of the best games in the series, if not the best game. So there's going to be a lot of positivity to share around in this discussion we're going to have. That being said, there is also a conversation to be had about where the series can go next and how we can possibly bring it not back into relevancy, but maybe make it even more relevant than before. Before we get started, I want to just quickly go around the room and talk about each of our individual experiences with the Donkey Kong Country franchise. And if we don't have any particular experiences with Donkey Kong Country in particular, just Donkey Kong as a whole. So Nathan, going in a clockwise motion, where are you at?
So I remember when I subscribed to Nintendo Power and they sent me a videotape, a VHS tape about this new game called Donkey Kong Country coming out.
Did the VHS tape look something like this?
It might have. I can't remember. It's been a long time.
So basically this VHS tape, Donkey Kong Country Exposed, was like pseudo like an advertisement for the game, but also like this weird like 90s attituded up like back scenes look at video game development as well.
Yeah, it might be this.
Yeah, hence why there's a lot of weird jump cuts and nausea-inducing weirdness going on screen here. And it's not just footage of the game, which is what I had previously been led to believe before I looked up this video myself.
That's hard to watch, honestly. So I definitely had that put on my VCR, got really excited for it. I believe we got the game for Christmas, and it's the only Donkey Kong Country I played up until this Wii U, because we never picked up 2 or 3, but I 101%ed that game.
Oh, wow.
I got everything. Because when you're a kid, you get your games, you don't get other games to play. It was like, at least at that age, in that time, you'd get your game. They cost so much money, your parents wouldn't buy you another one. Now your parents are gamers and you get all their hand-me-downs and have an infinite supply of games. But 101% of that game, got everything. Had a guide from Nintendo Power that would get it all. And so that's kind of where I sit. Also, I played the March of the Minis game with Mario versus Donkey Kong, but it's not Donkey Kong Country. And I came back for Tropical Freeze, which I thought was okay.
Interesting. AJ, where are you at when it comes to ye old donkey?
Well, I know my dad used to play a crap ton back in the arcade of the original Donkey Kong, and he really liked it. My first Donkey Kong technically was Donkey Kong 64. I have some fond memory for that, but I know through various other media sources that maybe it doesn't hold up as well as my brain remembers. I even had the see-through green N64 that came with yeah.
Oh yeah.
And like a yellow controller that made it look like a banana, and then the N64 was the jungle, the whole thing.
Yeah, both Donkey Kong.
I was pretty excited about
both
that.
Donkey Kong and Pokemon were up there with, hey, we're going to give you video game cartridges which are every color of the rainbow: green, yellow, orange, blue, whatever color you name, we have it.
Yeah. And I'm not sure when I got this, but at some point I got Donkey Kong Land 3 for the Game Boy. I know we've briefly spoken about it on a previous episode of this podcast, where I thought it was a different game, but nope, it was Donkey Kong Land 3. I never beat it. I would play it every once in a while. I remember thinking it was cool that it had a yellow cartridge, just like Pokemon Yellow. That was pretty exciting to me back in the day. But yeah, other than that, my experience is very minimal in, I've picked up a handful of all the others, like Donkey Kong Country on the Super Nintendo, and I think there was a kiosk in like a Walmart or something with the conga drums for like Donkey Konga or something.
Right.
And I had some fun with that, but it never inspired me to go pick up another game of it. I've heard good things about things like Tropical Freeze and Donkey Kong Country Returns. It's just never been something that I personally sought out. So, other than Smash and Mario Kart.
Right. Of course. Patrick, I feel like I already have a pretty good sense of your experience with the DKC series. But for those of you in the audience who might not know, what's the rundown?
So I'm going to try and be as quick as possible, just because I have so much about these games to talk about. These games are like super near and dear to my heart, because when I was born, my dad bought my older sister, an NES, and that was my first video game experience. But then for my 6th birthday, the N64 was out, and I really wanted one, but my parents, it had just come out a month before, and so my parents bought me a Super Nintendo. And it was the Donkey Kong Country bundle. And so Donkey Kong Country 1 was the very first game that was like mine. And I still have that copy of the game with my save file from when I was like 6. It's framed in a shadow box hanging in my game room.
You might want to dump that save just in case, because the battery in it might wear out.
Yeah, I know I should do a better job of preserving that. I'm not wild. Like, I'm not, it's not so much the save, it's more the cartridge. But it's in a shadow box, framed and hanging on my wall. Then after I don't think I 101%ed that game, but I might have, because I feel like there was a time when I just went through and tried to find every single secret. But then after I had just beaten the just ever loving shit out of that game, my mom went out and bought me Country 2, and Country 2 is just so much better. And then after I had an N64, I got an N64 for my 7th birthday. I went and rented Country 3, and I went back to my Super Nintendo, played Country 3. And then I kind of fell off of Donkey Kong for a while. Didn't play Returns when it first came out on Wii, and then I played it when it came out on 3DS, and then I played Tropical Freeze on Wii U and again on Switch.
Neat. So I've talked about in the past on this podcast about how growing up I was very fortunate in that I had an older cousin by the name of Michael Trevisono, who was more than happy to lend me his old Super Nintendo when I went to go ask my parents, hey, can I have a new video game console? My parents didn't want to buy me a new GameCube or PlayStation 2 or whatever would have been the hotness at the time, so they're like, let's just get this kid a nice hand-me-down from one of his nice older cousins. And basically he gave me his Super Nintendo and a smorgasbord of classics and not classics to go with it. There were games like I'm trying to think. The Beavis and Butthead game for the Super Nintendo.
That's a really good one.
Is it the really good one?
Yeah, all the Beavis and Butthead games were really good. I remember playing that.
I suppose I will have to go back and check out with certainty to see if it actually is as good or as bad as I remember it being. But as far as games that I absolutely knew were good, I also got with my Super Nintendo Super Mario World, the Power Rangers game that wasn't based on the movie, and the entire Donkey Kong Country trilogy. I played those games from front to back, I feel like pretty much nonstop for a couple of years. Did not get into Donkey Kong 64 on the Super Nintendo, in part because most of the time I was buying my not the Super Nintendo, the Nintendo 64, partially because most of the time I was buying most of my Nintendo 64 games kind of like secondhand, and they were pretty pricey at the time. But when Donkey Kong Country Returns came out on the Wii, I was pretty sure to snap that up as soon as I possibly could. I enjoyed the crap out of it. And I also played Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze when it came out as well, which I enjoyed. But we will be getting around to that a little bit later. So I want to backpedal a little bit and go back to the original Donkey Kong Country. Myself, you, Patrick, and Nathan have all talked a little bit about this game. Nathan, you mentioned how you 101%ed this game, and Patrick, you say that you have memories of possibly doing the same. I don't think I've actually ever 101% of this particular entry in the series because, while I do think that it is a exceptional platformer and a very important game both for Nintendo and for Rare, I do think that it is a game that is not quite so good at letting you know where secrets are located and giving you a good sense of how much progress you've made with regards to the secrets you've uncovered. And so I always, while I beat that game many times, as previously stated, it's not a game that I personally ever felt compelled to go back to and like figure out how to 101%, at least for me personally.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. And I actually do agree with that sentiment. I think that, and I think that this is something we're going to mention based on the run of show doc that you have. I think that Donkey Kong Country 3 is not remembered as fondly as it deserves to be. And on that same note, I think, and like, I love Donkey Kong Country, like, don't get me wrong, but I think the first one is maybe remembered through a little bit of a touch of a rose tinted lens.
Yeah.
For the most part.
You always remember
I still think
your
it's
first.
a masterpiece. Exactly. But I still think it's a masterpiece, but like it's I think that it's given the most leeway through nostalgia.
Well, it's one of those things where whenever there's been an opportunity for Nintendo to put the Donkey Kong Country series front and center, it always feels like they put this game first before the second game or the third game. When they released the SNES Classic a couple of years prior, they only had this game on that console.
Oh, man.
And it was disappointing for me. We will get into it in a little bit more. But yeah, I feel pretty strongly about Donkey Kong Country 3. I think that it's very underrated. And, sometimes great games don't become truly recognized for their greatness until there's like a groundswell of support from fans and or they see a major re-release. It's what happened with games like Persona 4, for example, or Suikoden 2, or even something like Among Us in recent memory. And I remember when the SNES Classic was announced, I was thinking, oh, if they put Donkey Kong Country 3 on this console, this could be an opportunity for many people to go back and discover this game. People will, bring home their new SNES Classic, they'll open it up on Christmas, and they'll see, oh, hey, Donkey Kong Country 3, might as well check it out. And it could lead to a new resurgence of interest in that particular game. But instead, Nintendo insisted on just packaging the original DKC with it, which I feel was just short-sighted thinking.
It's the most iconic of the three, but like I had major beef with Nintendo when they didn't put Country 2 on that SNES Classic.
I had a bigger issue with the fact that Chrono Trigger wasn't on it.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one too. I like that. That's a major oversight.
Yeah, Nintendo's a company that makes weird decisions, to say the least.
Well, Mario might die in a few hours, so yeah, potentially.
That's a good point.
Yeah, no, the with the SNES Classic and everything, like I don't know about all of them, but I know they've also put some of the stuff on the Switch Online thing.
All three of them are on there now, I think.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, so you do have access to it that way. It's just still perplexing how Nintendo's gonna Nintendo when it comes to this sort of thing. Just put it all out there and people will buy it. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, even if like the SNES Classic, that one was $80 if I remember right. I guess I'm not sure what it was in Canadian, but like, it was
like
$80.
$100. Yeah.
Honestly, give me, and it had 20 games. Give me 60 of the best SNES games. I'll give you $200 for that.
Yeah.
So I modded my Famicom Classic to add all the games that were missing that should have been on there.
Yeah.
Alan,
I was like, I like Chrono Trigger being on it was a miss. I did add Donkey Kong Country 3 and was playing it on there because I'd heard Kozi talk about it actually, and I wanted to play it, and but it didn't quite stick with me. But maybe that's just having other things to play. I'm not sure.
I think there are reasons. I mean, and we're going to talk about Country 3 in a bit, but like, I have thoughts. I'm very torn on Country 3.
Now, before we move on to talking about Country 3 or even Country 2, there is actually something about Country 1 that I do want to touch on that I saw that you made a note of, which is some of the weird lore surrounding the first Donkey Kong Country. Basically, within that game, they established that Cranky Kong, the kind of wizened old monkey who imparts pearls of wisdom to you and Diddy Kong, is the original DK from the 1981 arcade game. And this is something that Rare's employees have maintained to this very day. However, it's something that Nintendo has sort of remained mum on. They've never really kind of confirmed or denied exactly what Cranky Kong's relationship is with the rest of the Kong family. I personally am all down for Cranky Kong being the original Donkey Kong, but I don't know where you guys stand on it.
That's what I always thought was canon with it. Like when you turn the game on, he's cranking his.
Whoa.
He's cranking the crankophone or whatever it's called, the gramophone, and it's got the red construction stuff and falls. Yep. Am I saying that right?
No, yeah, absolutely.
And it's been a while, so
I don't think
that's very distinct.
I don't think I ever picked up on that little Easter egg part of it. I've just heard that Cranky Kong is supposed to be the original Donkey Kong, and wow, I think to know that little Easter egg's in there, that's neat.
And I think that they actually confirm it in the dialogue as well. But yeah, what we're seeing here on screen, you see the red construction rafter or God, I'm losing the word.
The steel beams, whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's from the original game, and he's playing the theme from the original game. And then I think they even confirm in dialogue that, or maybe it was in the manual for the game, that this Donkey Kong is the original Donkey Kong's grandson. And yet this Donkey Kong's dad, who would presumably be Donkey Kong Jr., never appears in this trilogy. He never appears again. Honestly, the last time we saw him was Super Mario Kart. And it's what the hell happened?
He's a
the Donkey Kong we know has a deadbeat dad.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And maybe he died during the filming of Mario Kart, because it's obviously the current Mario or the current Donkey Kong in 64.
Exactly. Yeah. The last time we saw him was Super Mario Kart.
Yeah.
It's definitely a conundrum. There have been a lot of like fun, kind of tongue-in-cheek, but also semi-serious videos that have popped up on YouTube over the past few years that are like trying to make sense of the Donkey Kong Country series lore and chronology. There's apparently something like called the Great Ape War that happens at some point that somehow connects all of this stuff together. I encourage everybody to go look that stuff up.
Well, and also, I mean, going off that same thread is like, how is a chimp? How is an ape the uncle to a chimp? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's
called evolution. Look it up.
So Donkey Kong is Diddy's uncle.
I thought they were friends.
So
would that imply that Donkey Kong has a brother we've never seen?
So I thought they implied Donkey and Funky were brothers.
The family.
So Funky is Diddy is Funky's son?
I think they have another brother that we don't hear about. I don't know.
Huh.
I should have brushed up on my Donkey Kong lore, honestly. This is a bit embarrassing.
Yeah,
I've always
totally
just
fine.
thought they were friends, but they could be nephew and uncle.
I know that at some point they refer to Diddy as Donkey's little buddy, but I'm not sure if that's like they. I feel like he's their uncle. I don't know. I'm not
Googling it now.
The
relationship.
I think it's safe to say that, you know, the relationship between Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong and Cranky Kong and all the various other Kongs that appear in Donkey Kong Country 1 will probably remain nebulous for some time to come until Nintendo puts out like Donkey Kong Historia, the official guide to the Donkey Kong Country series. However, one relationship in the Donkey Kong Country that's pretty clear cut is a relationship between Diddy Kong and Dixie Kong, the latter of whom was introduced in Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Conquest in 1995. So, you know, as you, Patrick, and myself have talked about, this is a game that is both very near and dear to both of our hearts. We're both in agreement that this game is pretty much a, like, across the board, tremendous improvement over the original Donkey Kong Country. And again, as we were talking about previously, it's too bad that along with 3, this game also tends to get excluded from a lot of moments where Nintendo re-releases the Donkey Kong Country series or draws attention to it.
Yeah, so I feel like DKC 2 gets I'm hesitant to say appropriate love from the fan base, because I personally think DKC 2 is as close to a perfect game as has ever been made. But so it's like, can it really get enough love? But it does get a tremendous amount of love from the fan base. But I'm not really from Nintendo though, which is kind of baffling. And especially like you mentioned, Dixie Kong. Dixie Kong is maybe the best new character brought into a sequel ever. Like, her mechanically, she changes the game. And then like character wise, her relationship with Diddy is I mean, they've never focused on story, but it's interesting. And she's just as badass and just as like capable as Diddy. And I felt like in Country 1, I was always favoring Diddy, and to this day, I still favor Diddy. I if I have both, I play as Diddy.
I used to favor Donkey just because I appreciated the, you know, extra strength of his jumps, particularly when fighting some of the ground ones that require a little bit more force to jump on. But I totally understand your love for Diddy.
Yeah, no, and Donkey Kong, like, don't get me wrong, I love Donkey. But then in Country 2, Dixie was such a good addition that I switch back and forth pretty consistently, because I feel like the balance between their capabilities, Diddy's speed versus Dixie's flying capability, is just so perfectly peppered into each level that like I'm constantly switching between the two.
Yeah, I definitely used to play Dixie Kong pretty heavily because I appreciated the preciseness that her like spinning hair ability allowed for. I will say, as I become more and more skilled at Donkey Kong Country 2 over the years, I definitely have found myself switching between the two, especially for the little extra edge that Diddy's jumps provide that Dixie is lacking in. But yeah, totally in agreement there. Nathan, I'm curious about you because you talked about how much you played Donkey Kong Country 1 back in the day. Like, what exactly is your story with this game? Did you ever have any kind of want after beating the first Donkey Kong to check this game out? And if so, like, kind of, was it just a matter of like not being able to secure the funds or the moment, or it just sort of passing you by?
I think it passed by. I definitely went through a phase on, especially with the Super Nintendo, falling into JRPGs and getting out of platformers when I discovered Final Fantasy Legend 3 for my Game Boy. And then I found out there were other Final Fantasies I could play on the Super Nintendo. That's where I'd spend most of my time on the Super Nintendo, whether it be Final Fantasy 6, Chrono Trigger, Breath of Fire series. Breath of Fire 2 is still probably my favorite RPG of all time. And it just kind of, it just passed by me. It never seemed like something I needed to play. I felt like I had my experience with the first one. I did try 64 when 64 came out because that was on a new system.
Right.
So, man, I would really recommend you go back and try this on Switch because it's just like Kozi said, it elevates every single aspect of Country 1. Like, and as hard as it is to believe, even the music, because the music of Country 1, David Wise's soundtrack, was incredible. The music of Country 2 is just out of this world. It's just so unbelievably fantastic. And like there's one song in particular, Mining Melancholy, appears in the levels, Cannon's Claim and also Windy Well. And it's just there are two levels that demonstrate incredible visuals, incredible soundtrack, incredible level design, and they're just, God, I can't get over how good the music is in this game. And I really don't think that the series topped the music of this particular game as a whole ever, but they certainly didn't reach the high of really any of the tracks in Country 2 until Tropical Freeze.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in total agreement with you there. I will say like, this is one of those things where like I kind of go back and forth on it. Like on any Monday, I'll be, I think that my favorite Donkey Kong Country track is Aquatic Ambience from the first Donkey Kong Country when you're in an underwater level.
Oh, yeah.
And then on Tuesday, I'll be like,
good.
I love Bramble Scramble when you're in any of the Bramble levels, which I'm going to say right here and right now is my favorite Donkey Kong Country track at the moment from 2 and from the entire series. But like, it could change at any given day. There are some fantastic tracks in this game and in all the games.
Oh yeah, Bramble Scramble stands out. For me, if I had to pick one, I'm not sure what the name of the track is, but it's in Amiss Abyss in Tropical Freeze. It's just absolutely stunning music.
Chad Michael Innes in the chat also points something out that I feel is worth mentioning, which is that in DKC2, the animal companions in this game were way more useful than they were in the original DKC. In the first game, I feel like the animals' inclusion in some of the levels was very kind of incidental. It's like, hey, you can ride on guard the swordfish to give yourself a little bit of a boost in this underwater level, but it's not necessary. DKC2 really built a lot of the levels around them and made them feel a lot more useful and included them a whole lot more.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Squitter, Squawks, Radley, Quawks, there are so many of the animal buddies in DKC2 that, like you said, they built the levels around them and made it so that, like, even if you lose the animal buddy, you are going to get them back basically right away because you have to be able to play with them. And
they straight up transform you into the animal buddy in some instances.
Yeah, exactly. And so they didn't feel nearly as I would say underutilized as they did in the first game. Like Rambi is pretty cool in the first game, but other than that, there isn't really any that really stand out. Whereas, you know, you spend entire levels being dragged or being like flown around by squawks, and Angel is incredible. I love what was that name? The name? God, I wrote them down. But so Rattly, Squitter, Squawks, Quawks, Glimmer. That was the name. The
anglerfish.
Yeah, the anglerfish
that appears in one level, and yeah, that was a pretty good level.
Oh yeah, just absolutely awesome. The you know, the animal buddies, and I'm sorry if I'm dominating the conversation, guys, but the animal buddies were really cool. And then also the characters, like they introduced Granny Kong, who, you know, rest in peace.
Is that Wrinkly Kong?
Oh, is that what they?
Yes,
that's right.
Her name.
Thank
that
you.
Is her name.
I'm looking up the family trees, and there's a Wrinkly Kong. So.
Yes, Wrinkly Kong, rest in peace. She dies, and you interact with her ghost in Country 3. But
no,
Wrinkly Kong.
That's in Donkey Kong Country 3. She's basically retired, but she's not dead. I believe that she dies by the time of Donkey Kong Country 64. So between 3 and 64.
Gotcha. Man, need to brush up. But then also Swanky Kong showed up, and I love Swanky Kong because of how just like kind of skeezy he really feels, and the quiz mini games are always super fun. So, man, Country 2, what a game!
I'm totally in agreement. Let's move on to discussing the next game where we might begin to butt a bit of heads, however, which is Donkey Kong Country 3 Dixie's Double Trouble. Now, this game released in November of 1996. What's funny about this game is I actually think this is the game in the trilogy of Donkey Kong Country games that I received that I actually played first. As I mentioned, I got the entire trilogy and a whole bunch of other SNES games all at once. And so I'm like, oh, well, I can choose from anything in any order. And I think I wanted to try this game out first just because the subtitle, Double Trouble, sounded really, really cool to me. And I remember getting my ass kicked real quick into it, but still having a lot of fun with it. In the end, I actually don't remember which game I actually like completed to 100% completion first. That was a weird little memory that I just remembered now. So yeah, I think that Dixie's Double Trouble is really underrated. I think that it's one of the more underrated SNES games, and maybe even one of the most underrated Nintendo games, although I do know that there are a lot of other underrated Nintendo games that are definitely vying for that spot. But I do know that not everybody is in agreement with me. I get the sense, Patrick, that you don't dislike this game, but you do have some qualms with it.
So I actually I love this game. But you're right. I definitely have some qualms. I love all the Donkey Kong Country games, but it definitely is a competitor with Returns as my least favorite. But I would say it's without a doubt my least favorite of the original trilogy. And I think that I think that that's largely due to, like, you know, something that's not really widely known is by the time Rareware was developing this game, it was the kind of A team, the varsity team that Rareware had moved on to Banjo. And this was just sort of a project that they were utilizing the engine that they had developed in Country 2, and they were just putting out another country game.
Go ahead. Nathan.
Go ahead.
I realized why I never played the other two. I now remember.
Okay.
because they didn't have Donkey Kong and they were called Donkey Kong Country.
Ooh.
That's
Interesting
actually
point.
a really. It's a good point, and it's actually something I've always thought was really brave of them to do because they're not about story, but like to remove the hero and make him the damsel in Country 2, actually like pretty unique and a very bold choice for.
And then Donkey Kong 3, you don't have any of the main characters from the first game.
So they transition you Country
Baby Kong?
Kitty Kong.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So Kitty Kong is one of those characters that like there are many points on which I will defend DKC 3. Kitty Kong is one of those points where I'm like, I don't know that I can entirely defend this. I like how, in the same way that in DKC 2, Diddy Kong's speed complements Dixie Kong's flight capabilities and precision. That Kitty Kong's like strength and power and weight complements Dixie Kong's, again, flight and precision here. But I think that the design of the character leaves something to be desired, to be honest.
I definitely agree. I think I'm a little bit easier on Kitty Kong because there's another character that I dislike so much more in Country 3, and that's Ellie the elephant. But like, I think Kitty kind of gets overlooked because of my hatred for Ellie.
So can we take a second to talk a little bit about Ellie the elephant? Because, I saw that you want to talk a little bit about Ellie the elephant now. You don't particularly like playing as Ellie coming off of Rambi from DKC 1 and 2. I totally get that, like, coming off of Rambi the Rhino, which is a animal buddy that can basically ram into any enemy in the game and immediately defeat them. It's pretty disappointing to go from that to Ellie the elephant, who is by comparison a way more kind of childish and cartoony character who has kind of slightly convoluted controls and like just feels at odds with sort of the tone of some of the prior Donkey Kong Country games. I will say though that I do feel like some of the more interesting in the levels are built around Ellie's unique mechanics, like this level, which I'm showing on screen right here, where if Ellie sees a rat character that is basically enveloped in light in a dark environment, she'll become scared of said rat character and won't be able to jump on them, which I can see how coming off of Rambi you might be like, it's kind of disappointing that I went from an animal buddy that can destroy anything to an animal buddy that literally can't even
get a rat,
can't kill like the weakest enemy in the game. But from a design perspective, I thought it was, at least at the time, I'd like to go back and replay it, kind of like a novel idea for a level.
I definitely I do agree with what you're saying, and I think that my beef with Ellie really comes down more to like the sucking up and shooting mechanic that she has. It's significantly less straightforward than Rambi, and the fact that she replaced Rambi, and Rambi was just this really awesome, very raw powerhouse in the first two games. But I think where I really started hating Ellie, because like you said, the art style for Ellie is much more childish. But I mean, I was a kid, and so that didn't bother me that much back then. But there's a boss fight where you play as Ellie, and it's this face behind a waterfall, and it comes out and it spits water at you, and it just felt like Ellie's hitbox was so broken, and then having to suck up the water, and then like having to suck up the water and then position yourself to be able to shoot it at this face. This is So it just took this incredible precision that I feel like the character was not really designed for. And it made it an extremely frustrating experience when I was a kid. And I have probably held that grudge too long. But I don't like her.
I totally understand it. I like I said, it's disappointing that they substituted Rambi the Rhino at Ellie. It's disappointing that they didn't try to sort of seek a compromise and maybe figure out how to have both animal characters in the game. But I do have a bit of a soft spot for Ellie, if only because I think that the design of some of the levels that she's in is a little bit. It's interesting and requires some puzzle solving that you wouldn't have expected, just if you only played Donkey Kong Country 1 and, use that as a basis for what the rest of the series would have been. I wanted to, by the way, just say briefly, AJ, I apologize if we've been boring you a little bit with all this talk of Donkey Kong's many animal buddies.
Do you not ride the animals?
You do in the first one, you only ride animals.
Yeah.
And then in 2 and 3, you sometimes ride them and sometimes transform.
Oh, okay.
No, it's honestly, it's interesting hearing all these different mechanics that I didn't know about for these games I also didn't play. I've always had a kind of a curiosity for it, and I do have nostalgia for the original, but I just never, like I said, I never moved forward on it.
So after the release of Donkey Kong Country 3 Dixie's Double Trouble, the Donkey Kong Land trilogy of games concluded. So for context, these were pseudo ports. I say pseudo because they weren't direct ports of the original Donkey Kong Country games for the Game Boy. There was Donkey Kong Land 1, which was released in 1995. There was Donkey Kong Land 2, which was released in 1996. And then there was Donkey Kong Land 3, which was released in 1997, which I believe, AJ, is the one that you played, correct?
Yes, it was the third one with the two
Dixie Kong and
Dixie
Kitty Kong.
Yeah, that's
right.
One.
So I remember now. So you were talking about this on a previous podcast about how you thought, looking at the box art, that Kitty was female.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes, something along those lines. Yeah.
I know this is a game that you have nostalgic memories for. Have you been back to it in recent years to sort of see how those memories stack up against your kind of current modern sensibilities and experience as a gamer?
Honestly, I haven't. And thinking back to it, I remember there being there was the swordfish animal buddy, and I think the rhino came back at a certain point, but. Yeah, I played a lot of hours on my Game Boy. The majority of it was Pokemon, but anytime I needed a break, I had a variety of games. And, every once in a while, that one would scratch an itch that I didn't know needed to be scratched. It's from what I remember, it's very reminiscent of other country games in terms of control style and all that. It's my nostalgia for it is primarily just more or less it's nostalgia for the Game Boy experience in general, more than anything.
Absolutely. Quintessential Game Boy, for sure.
Absolutely. Kids today don't know what they're missing.
I mean, it is kind of impressive that they were able to squeeze sprites as complex as those onto the Game Boy's hardware. Obviously, it's pretty dismal compared to the SNES games that they were based off of, but compared to so many other games in the Game Boy's library, it's this kind of pops off a little bit. I will say, Are these games available on the 3DS's eShop? Because if they are, I want to give these games a shot at some point. I have no expectations. I'm totally ready to be disappointed, but I want to give them a try because I think that as a Donkey Kong Country fan, I deserve it to give them a shot.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're going to say something wrong.
I was just going to say they are available on the 3DS eShop. And I think the thing about the Land trilogy is because Kozi, like you mentioned, they were kind of ports, but also kind of not.
Right.
And they were kind of like demakes of the country games. And they later went on to port Country and Country 2 to the Game Boy Color, just straight up the full games. They moved those over to Game Boy Color. And I think that based on the limitations of the hardware, the land games are actually better than the country ports to Game Boy Color, just because the limitations of the hardware. It's better to demake and kind of work around those limitations rather than just try to bring over just straight up the same experience.
Right. Much like how the Mario Land games, didn't try to recreate the original Mario trilogy or Super Mario World or The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening didn't try to recreate A Link to the Past. They both sort of did their own things and definitely benefited from that.
Exactly. They tried to recreate the experience on, lesser hardware.
Right. So go ahead.
Sorry. No, just real quick. While we were talking about 3DS and stuff there, I just wanted to briefly mention how Nintendo's got a Nintendo. There should have been more of those 3D classics released.
Oh yeah,
3DS.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of these games would have benefited from the presentation in 3D on the 3DS in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
that's all.
I want to say, the 3D Classics version of Kid Icarus got me to play and beat Kid Icarus for the first time, so I do salute that. But overall, I thought that the selection of games that Nintendo had for their 3D Classics line was super weird. There was Twinbee and Gradius, and if you love those games, great. But I feel like there were a lot of missed opportunities for Nintendo to give their old classics a fresh coat of 3D paint.
They do all those weird, slightly more obscure games for nostalgia's sake, and then they probably wouldn't do very well. And then Nintendo would be like, "Oh, I guess people don't want these," and then just not do anything with it.
That's so frustrating that they do that.
I know.
So after the release of the Donkey Kong Land trilogy, Nintendo decided to release the original versions of the trilogy on the Game Boy Advance. The first one, DKC 1, was released in 2003, DKC 2 was released in 2004, and DKC 3 was released in 2005 on the platform. I also have not played these games. I want to check them out at some point, even though I expect them to not be as great as the original SNES games are based on, once again. Just because I feel like, again, as a DKC fan, I kind of owe it to myself to give them a shot. The one thing that I knew about these games beforehand, though, and you made a point of pointing this out in our notes, Patrick, is that the third one actually had its soundtrack redone by David Wise, the composer on the first two games. And you're of the opinion that the soundtrack there is actually better.
Oh yeah. So I totally understand that we probably can't share it while on stream. Just don't want to get, copyrights. But if you get the opportunity to go check out, you can hear it immediately in the first level of DKC3 on the SNES. It's just this very upbeat, just this very upbeat, fast, kind of jolly song. Whereas on the GBA version, it starts off and it's just very quiet, and all you hear is the ambient sounds, right? But then it leads into this very I would say haunting kind of song. And David Wise just came back and redid the whole soundtrack, and I think he even spoke about it in an interview I think I saw on YouTube a few years ago, where he said, I was working on banjo at the time. I was really wishing I had been able to do Country 3, and then to get to come back and get the opportunity to do Country 3 was really awesome. And it definitely shows in the GBA versions. I hadn't played those until a few years ago, and I played them on an emulator, but they're honestly shockingly competent.
Like I said, they're definitely games that I'm going to want to make a point of checking out at some point in the future. Now, the next game to release chronologically in the Donkey Kong Country series was Donkey Kong Country Returns in 2010. Before I touch on that game, though, I just want to quickly go around the room. Did anyone here play Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, either the original version that released in 2005 or the Wii version in 2008?
That's the Congos? Or the Congo ones?
It was the one that was originally with the Congos, and the idea was that it was a platformer that you played entirely using the Congos. So you would tap on the left one to go left, you would tap on the right one to go right, and you would clap to produce a sound wave that would defeat enemies. And then the Wii version of the game basically reworked it into being an actual platformer where you would waggle the Wii remote to do sound waves. It took away kind of the special factor of the original game by no longer making it controllable via the bongos, but it actually, like, doing so actually kind of exposed how, like, kind of well crafted and competent a lot of the levels are, because you're no longer kind of like struggling with the bongos to go from left to right. You're actually like exploring the levels like you would in any other Donkey Kong Country platformer. So yeah, unfortunately, not much of a discussion to be had there. I played the Wii version in 2008. I really enjoyed it. I know some people would contend that the original Bongos game from 2005 is better, and more power to you. Fun fact, this game was actually the first game released by the Nintendo EAD Tokyo team, which originally was formed in 2002 using a mix of like people from their Kyoto office and also people living in Tokyo. And this is the same team that would go on to make Super Mario Galaxy and then Super Mario 3D World after that, among other games. I mean, it's not like this team was entirely from the ground up. It was a mix of both old and new talent that, you know, were experienced in making these kinds of games. But really, I think a real kind of feel good story of, you know, making this game that reviews really, really well, but, you know, obviously doesn't get a whole lot of recognition because a lot of people are like, why would I play a platformer with a bongo? And then going on to make, you know, one of the Wii's most recognizable games. Speaking of the Wii, Donkey Kong Country Returns. I've been talking a lot for a while. Yes.
Are we skipping Donkey Kong 64? Is it not part of the Donkey Kong Country universe?
If you want to talk about 64, I'm more than happy to do so. So DKC, well, no, it doesn't have the C in it. See, that's a problem. Donkey Kong 64 doesn't have the country moniker in its title, but it does share a lot of enemies. It does share a lot of the supporting cast. It does share a lot of design aesthetics with the older country games. So you're more than free to say your piece on it here. I unfortunately never played it back in the day. I do want to play it at some point. The problem is that, like, whenever I see people talking about 64, I feel like opinions are constantly torn about it. One day you'll hear people praising it. Another day you'll hear people bad-mouthing it. So I'm constantly in a whirlwind of maybe I should finally try it. Maybe I shouldn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I rented it from Blockbuster, tying that back in. And it was a weird one because you had to get the RAM cartridge. So when they rented it, they had to rent the RAM cartridge with the game.
Oh, whoa, that must have been a nightmare.
So you had to flip it in and out every time you like the one that was in there and put the new one in. It wasn't a great platformer, especially coming off Mario 64.
Yeah.
Well, so it was Rare did Banjo before they did DK64.
Did they do Banjo before DK64?
Yep.
Yeah, they did.
Well, then there's no excuse. I think they went too much into collectibles, if I remember correctly. Like, the collectibles were like too many for each of the 4 different characters you played as.
Character-specific collectibles.
Both games still had the same floaty jump in it, and I just remember DK64, like, the variety of the weapons between the Kongs were interesting, but they were so hard to aim and control with the one stick and everything. Mm-hmm. It was a bit of a nightmare. I remember getting stuck. I think it was there was a Tiny Kong boss where she used her pigtails to spin up into the air, and she had to try and, like, drop down on the enemy boss. And I don't think I got past that point.
Yeah, I remember getting stuck on that one when I was a kid as well. DK64 is Kozi, like you mentioned, controversial. But it's I don't know. I've always been like pretty lukewarm on it. It's fine. It's no Country or Country 2 or Country 3, but it's fine. But I do have another lost Donkey Kong game that I do want to mention before we. But as long as I want to wrap up. I don't want to cut anyone off about 64 because there's a lot to discuss about that game for sure.
Yeah,
I have nothing.
I want to mention right here and right now that if you guys have anything more that you want to say about DK64 and you feel like you might be dragging on things a little bit long, I am more than happy to devote an entire episode of Press YYZ in the future to playing and talking about DKC64. I keep saying DKC64, but again, there's no country in the name. It's so confusing. I will gladly play that game for the first time and we can all talk about it in the future because yeah, this is I love the Donkey Kong Country trilogy, and because of it being so expensive, it was never a game I picked up, but it was always a game I kind of was intrigued by. And if the three of you feel like I should check it out, I'll definitely look into it.
That's right. That game was like one of the like $80 or $90 N64 games, wasn't it?
Yeah, because it had a RAM cartridge.
Yep. Because it could not play without it. It crashed without that RAM expansion.
Yep.
Oh man.
And
it was a classic.
Isn't the story that like they couldn't figure out, like Rare never understood why the RAM cartridge allowed it to run the way it did?
Yeah. And they Rare just went to Nintendo and said, gotta ship a RAM expansion with every single cart. and it was just one of those logistical nightmares that like is kind of a legend of gaming, a lot like the whole, Xbox 360 coffins with FedEx.
Yeah.
All right then. Well, after the release,
what was the other one?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Donkey Kong 94. Like,
oh yeah, this game.
I don't know if you guys ever played Donkey Kong 94.
This is the one that begins as a recreation of Donkey Kong, the like original 1981 game, and then it extends. Yeah, I played this one on the DS.
Is it part of the Country 3DS universe?
It's not part of the Country universe. It's like Kozi said, it starts as a remake of the original arcade, but then it develops into its own thing, and it expands and has a lot more levels that are a lot more complex. But I think that if you're looking for a Donkey Kong experience on Game Boy, 94 is as good as it gets.
Also, as a hidden one before we get to returns as well, Donkey Kong King of Swing, which stars the current Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong, is a terrible game that I got for my kid.
And Jungle Climber also. Don't bother with Jungle Climber either.
Because you use your like right and left shoulder buttons to launch you into the air to swing around.
Yep, that's what Jungle Climber does too. It's just not good. That's a good PSA right there.
Yeah, the thing about Donkey Kong 94 is it effectively was spiritually followed up by the Mario vs. Donkey Kong series, but there was never really a game that kind of directly followed up the exact style of gameplay that this game presented, and I always kind of thought that was maybe a bit of a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I loved this game when I was a kid, and like I had always wanted to play it again, and then I bought an EverDrive, GBA EverDrive for my TS Lite a few years ago, and I loaded it up on there, and it's just a fantastic game.
I don't think I ever played this. I played a ton of March of the Minis, which
March of the Minis is a similar idea.
Yeah.
Isn't that more of a Lemmings?
I've never played the Minis game, so I can't really comment on them.
So March of the Minis, you'll have to excuse me because it has been a long time since I played it, but it is, like Kozi mentioned, it's born of the whole like Mario versus Donkey Kong or Donkey Kong 94 kind of birthed the Mario versus Donkey Kong series, and then March of the Minis does fit into that. I think you might be right about like some Lemmings like mechanics, but
Yeah.
You constantly use your minis to do things for you around the map. If I remember correctly.
That's right. Yeah, man, it's been a while since I mean, I like the Mario versus Donkey Kong series. I think they're fun.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, as I was stating earlier, if you discount Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, after the release of Donkey Kong 64, the next mainline Donkey Kong platforming game would only show up in 2010 with the release of Donkey Kong Country Returns. This is a game that I was pretty hyped for in the lead up to its release, because this was during a period of time in my life where I could actually like understand, oh, there are games coming out in the future. Oh, they're coming out from this particular video game developer that's very renowned. Oh, it's time for me to get excited. And I will say, I thoroughly played this game a lot. I thoroughly enjoyed this game a lot. I still do, looking back on it, feel weird about Retro Studios being the developer that took on this game. I think that Retro did a fantastic job with it, but it's just weird because, you know, during the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 generation, you saw so many other developers transition from making, you know, more kid-friendly experiences to adult fare that really kind of tackled difficult subject matter. Naughty Dog went from the studio behind, you know, Jack and Daxter and Crash Bandicoot to the developer behind Uncharted and The Last of Us. Sucker Punch went from Sly Cooper to Infamous, and so on and so forth. Retro Studios was like this weird outlier during the generation where they went from the Metroid Prime games to Donkey Kong Country, which again did a fantastic job with Donkey Kong Country Returns. But it just, I remember at E3 2010 where they announced this game for the first time, sitting there being like, I'm really looking forward to this, but I have to acknowledge that this is a bit of a weird situation. But that's just me. I don't know about you guys. Was this something that turned you guys off when you first saw this game announced?
I remember it when it got announced. I was just like, "Oh wow, that's really neat." It looks like a modern version of the old one. Other than that, I like I said, I just never got to it. It's just one of those like I can remember. I have a feeling of nostalgia when I think back to probably watching an old episode of X Play about it, or something like that. But
yeah,
for the game itself, like or an X Play or reviews on the run or something, Electric Playground, all those fun things. But just all the media coverage. But the game itself, I just never got around to it.
Yeah, I think I share some of the similar thoughts to AJ, where I thought it was cool that they were bringing back like the original Donkey Kong, and it had Donkey Kong as the main character, as evidenced by my saying that I didn't play the other two because Donkey Kong wasn't the character you played as.
Right.
But I didn't own a Wii until like the very end of its life cycle.
Oh wow!
So I just never, as a PlayStation gamer, nothing on the Wii was really jumping out at me. So we picked one up, my wife and I, near the end of its life cycle in a few games. But that just wasn't one of the games we picked up.
Interesting. Oh man, what a console! I loved the Wii, and like I had and I still played my Wii regularly when Country Returns was announced, but it just felt wrong to me to be playing Donkey Kong with motion controls, and so I made a conscious choice to not play this game when it was announced, and I was not interested in it until it was announced for 3DS, at which point my ears perked up and I was all about like, oh, can't wait for this game. And so I missed the first cycle of this one. And so, and kind of intentionally so.
That's one of those things where I played the original Wii version. I played it with the motion controls for rolling, and I, at the time, never had an issue with it. I'm like, no, it's totally fine. I'm pretty confident that if I were to go back to it nowadays, I'd be like, no, I much prefer the 3DS version, which I never beat, but did also purchase because I think it might have been on sale at some point. I totally understand where you're coming from with regards to the control issue.
Yeah, I was really excited. I do have very vivid memories of like experiencing that game on the 3DS. So like I had it marked on the calendar. I knew where I was going to be. Like a friend owed me some money, and I was in Boulder, Colorado. A friend owed me some money, so we went to this GameStop over by kind of close to Pearl Street, and he owed me money, and so instead of paying me back, he just bought me this game. And then we went to his apartment, and I just played Donkey Kong most of the night while he played Age of Empires, and it was this really awesome like return to form for the series for me.
I want to say I'm really glad that your friend was able to enjoy Age of Empires that night, because like it's one thing when you buy a video game for yourself, but you're able to play it on your television, and so your friend can, vicariously enjoy it through you. It's another thing when you buy it for your 3DS, and so like even if your friend is staring at the 3DS, they still won't be able to enjoy it properly because the stereoscopic 3D effect is messing up their perception of how it looks. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, man. I played my 3DS almost exclusively with the 3D off. But yeah, I mean, he got to sit there like we did quite a few all-nighters on Age of Empires 3 back then. And I mean, Age of Empires 3 was pretty old at the time already, but like we definitely loved it. So it was a good time, and I do have those vivid memories, and it was this really really fun and great night. But it was it was Donkey Kong, and it was back to form, and I was really hyped on it, and I'm glad that I waited for the traditional controls.
Before I move on to Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze and wrap up our discussion on the series, I will say, reflecting back on this game, like we talked much earlier in this conversation about Nintendo has this tendency to overemphasize the first Donkey Kong Country game and downplay the second and the third one. And you can kind of see that in the design of this game, where the only animal buddy that Donkey Kong has that you can ride around on is Rambo. Squawks makes an appearance as like a power-up that you can use in some levels. The only returning characters are like Funky Kong and Cranky Kong, who are both characters that were introduced in the first one. There are no returning characters or like much in the way of mechanics or anything from like the second or third games, which again, the quality of the experience that Returns provides is so great such that it's not that big of a deal. But I remember at the time being a little bit disappointed by that.
Yeah, I mean, it was this. I think that was kind of by design, that like they were probably a little bit nervous because the series had been dormant for so long, and the IP had taken some risks that hadn't really paid off in recent years. And so it was very much an idea of like, back to the roots. Let's trim the fat and let's just give people what they're really nostalgic for. And that was DKC1. And I do agree with you. It did to an extent hold the game back. And I think that Tropical Freeze is a better game for including more of that stuff from, Country 3 and Country 2 and 3. But I think it was a good way to come back to the series.
So let's jump right into it. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, released in February of 2014. This is a game that I very much enjoyed while I was in the process of playing it. But once I beat it, gotta be honest, I honestly never felt compelled to go back and play it again. I have thought from time to time about going back and touching it, but I only own the Wii U version at this point. And I feel like this late into the game, I feel like I would want to experience some of the improvements that the Switch version brought to the series. But I don't know that I'm like so gung-ho to play this game again that I'm willing to pony up $80 to get the Switch version. So TBD on when I'll ever play this game again. the original, not the original Donkey Kong Country, the reboot of the series with Returns was a pretty challenging game, but I personally thought that Tropical Freeze kind of brought its difficulty to a whole new level, and I think that definitely played a part in me not wanting to go back to it again. I felt like once I finally got it done and over with, I was sort of like, all right, I've passed this great hurdle. There's no reason for me to subject myself to its harms again. But I don't know about you guys. Nathan, earlier on in the podcast, we established that you are a savant when it comes to Fall Guys. You're no slouch when it comes to really, really challenging games. How challenging did you find Tropical Freeze?
It was challenging. I think I found it frustrating more than challenging. And it was things like the boss battles. I remember that first boss battle. I think it's on is it a pirate ship?
I know the last one is.
Oh, I can't remember. But I just remembered like there being like 12 hits you needed to do to beat the boss, and if you died, you had to restart the entire thing right from the start. And I found the boss battles extremely frustrating, and that really turned me off the game. It just didn't seem fair, I think, was my problem with it. I think most of the other platforming was fine, like definitely challenging. And if you made a mistake, it was your fault. And don't get me wrong, if you make a mistake during the boss battles, it's your fault too. But the price you paid didn't seem fair to have to repeat the entire sequence right from the start again. As you're learning and they'd be multiple phases in these boss fights. So you'd finish your first phase and you finally get it down. Then you get to the second phase, it's completely different. You got to relearn that. And it was just like this constant learning skill.
You got to perfect it to get like so I hadn't thought about this before, and I think I do agree with you. Like the boss battles seemed too long in Tropical Freeze. They're too long, and they require pitch perfect perfection. That just didn't seem particularly fair, and it didn't really track with any of the previous boss battles in the previous games.
Yeah, it's like they made it to be punishing. And yeah. I get the game was supposed to be hard, but I feel like it was overstepped, and it made the experience just not fun to play.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you about the boss battles.
That being said, though, I get the sense, Patrick, that overall you're way more high on this game than either of us are.
Yeah, I think that I would probably say that this is my second favorite Country game, behind Country 2. I bought it on Wii U, actually not the day it came out. I was super hyped to replay Country when it was coming to 3DS eShop, and I woke up in the morning and it wasn't available for download. And I was like desperately, like, where is it? And some people on Reddit told me, well, the eShop updates at 10 a.m. Pacific. And I was living in Northern Colorado at the time. And so that was like, that was 2 hours away. And so I just wasn't willing to wait that long. Or maybe it was an hour away, whatever. But so I just drove to the store and I bought Tropical Freeze because I had heard it was good. And I sat down and I played that entire game in one day, and it was just amazing. I loved it. I think that there are a lot of really legitimate criticisms for it, but overall, no, I really love Tropical Freeze.
Yeah, like with Donkey Kong Country Returns, this was a game that I also it kind of peeved me that Retro Studios decided to work on this game and not on something else. I don't know if any of you recall, but at the E3 where this game was announced, which was E3 2013, Reggie and Michael Kelbach, I guess the CEO of Retro Studios, the president CEO, both sat down and they actually had like a minute-long interview where Michael was like, yeah, we wanted to go and make Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze after making Returns because we felt like, we hadn't we hadn't kind of done everything that we thought we could do with the series after the completion of Returns. We felt like there was a lot more gas still left in the tank. And I remember at the time watching that video being like, I don't think you're lying, but like, it strikes me that maybe you had some other plans in the pipeline for the Wii U that didn't work out. And Nintendo came to you guys and was like, hey, you guys have already proven that you can do well by the Donkey Kong Country series. So why not go ahead and work on a sequel and kind of keep yourselves occupied that way? But like, ultimately that's neither here nor there when it comes to the actual quality of the product that they made. And I'm totally fine with accepting that to a lot of people. This game is a masterpiece. And like I said, I definitely do want to go and give this game another shot one day in the future, because I think that I don't know that I fully gave it its due back in the day.
Why did I get it free? I didn't pay for this game. It was a free promotion, and I'm trying to remember why I didn't pay for it.
You know what? Nintendo did, because the Wii U was selling so poorly, Nintendo did a few promotions with a few different games where it was like, buy this game and then go, like, there was like a rebate code that you could go online and you could then choose from X amount of games. It's how I got Pikmin 3 for free too. I bought Mario Kart 8 and I got Pikmin 3 for free.
Yeah, because I remember I think when I bought it, if I bought Mario Kart, I would get like one of 4 games for free, and I picked Zelda Wind Waker, but then I got that one free as well because I didn't buy it.
So Wind Waker wasn't out yet when you got Mario Kart.
I think I got a Mario Kart bundle, like a Wii U bundle with Mario Kart in it.
There was also a Wii U bundle with Wind Waker.
No, I didn't get that one because that had a fancy.
Yeah, it had a fancy gamepad.
Yeah. Trying to remember why. I
mean, they did those promotions quite a bit where it was like, get a free, pick from these 3 or 4 games, and that's how I got Pikmin, and I never played Pikmin 3. But
you should play that one. It's good.
I might buy it for Switch because it also seems like a game my wife would like.
Yeah.
So just kind of a thought exercise for the panel. If Retro had not gone back to Donkey Kong, what do you think they would have made for the Wii U?
Metroid.
You think they would have gone straight to Prime 4?
I feel like Retro Studios was pretty adamant about not wanting to do Metroid so quickly after completing 3. I feel like, I don't know, there have been all sorts of like weird rumors and speculation about games that they may or may not have been working on over the past decade. I'd have to imagine that it probably would have been something like very similar kind of tonally or visually to Metroid. Maybe they would have kind of dipped their toes into the realm of online multiplayer. Total speculation, no reason to put any weight behind that, just a thought that entered my mind.
Yeah, I bet it would have been something original that we have no idea what it was going to be. Not like a licensed property, something they were working on in the background, and then
something very.
It's just now on the cutting room floor and getting swept into a corner, forgotten about.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like something that really jumps to mind is like Astral Chain. Something very in the same vein as Astral Chain, as far as like, it's from a pretty well-renowned developer. They're trying something out, and it's just not what you would typically expect from them.
There was also, this is never like a project that officially ever entered into production, but not too long ago, there was like concept art that emerged that was done by some former Retro employees of like a game themed around Boo from the Super Mario Bros. Series, or Sheik from the Legend of Zelda series. And it would have been interesting to see those projects kind of reach fruition. I suspect that what they actually would have turned out to be, if they had ever been officially greenlit, probably would not have been what we in our heads are imagining they could have been. Like, I suspect that the Sheik game probably would have been like
Ninja Gaiden.
That's what I
Well,
think we'd
yeah.
like to imagine it
Geek
being.
Ninja
But
Gaiden, that would have been amazing.
The Secret of Zelda that parallels Ocarina of Time,
Uh-huh.
where Sheik goes around placing all of the items for Link that he's going to need.
see, the thing is that I feel like Nintendo loves making sure that, every mainline title or spin-off that they produce is really innovative or unusual in some fashion. And so I feel like if they had given Retro the go-ahead on making the Sheik Ninja Gaiden game, they probably would have also mandated that they insert something really kind of unusual and orthodox into it. And
With the gamepad in particular.
yeah, that could have been great, or who knows? Honestly, Retro Studios a very
Third.
yeah, a very talented studio, Retro, but yeah.
Yeah.
No studio is immune to making missteps.
I mean, Cyberpunk, right? I mean, bringing it back to Tropical Freeze, though, I think that Tropical Freeze has a level called Abyss, and to me, this is like one of my go-to examples as far as like if people who don't play or don't really understand video games, Abyss is one of my go-to examples of like this is how these things are art, and it's this culmination of music and visuals and just and gameplay and interactivity that is just so inexplicably entrancing. And this is my favorite Donkey Kong level ever, because I love the silhouette art style. And then the music, if you get the opportunity, you should go listen to the music from this level, because it is just so incredibly melancholic in what is actually pretty stressful gameplay. It's pretty intense, and the music just lulls you into this sense of relaxation.
On the subject of Retro Studios and Metroid, I'm pretty sure, is this the level that has the Metroid cameo in it, by the way?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a Metroid in this level in the background somewhere.
I remember,
like we're referring to the alien Metroid, correct? Not
yes.
Samus.
Yes. Yeah, not titular hero Metroid. We're talking about Metroid.
I'm just saying, some people think that
Metroid was a girl.
Yeah.
Zelda is great. I love his green clothes.
Yeah.
So, wrapping it up, right now, there's not really a whole lot to be said with regards to where the Donkey Kong Country series could go next, or when we could even expect to see another entry in the series. Recently, Donkey Kong Country but Tropical Freeze's lead, Stephen Dupree, returned to Retro Studios, but there's no telling whether he returned to Retro Studios to work on a new Donkey Kong Country game or help with the war effort to complete Metroid Prime 4, which I would say is the more likely scenario at play at the moment. Does anybody here have any particular opinions, thoughts, predictions on the future of the Donkey Kong Country series? Any thoughts on which developer within Nintendo's stable, or maybe a third-party developer that they'd like to see the series handed off to next?
I'm still hung up on my 3D Classics idea. Nintendo needs to partner up with Sony, release a 3D TV that that only works for certain games, and
does Sony
put
still
them all
make
out on that
3D TVs?
Nobody does.
I don't
know.
Yeah, I don't think anybody does anymore.
No.
I've been searching for a PS Vita TV on Facebook Marketplace quite a bit, and they keep I keep seeing the PlayStation TV branded TV that was 3D.
Yeah,
Nathan, we should
good luck with the PS Vita TV. I've got one.
I was going to say, Nathan, we should talk after the stream, because I have one, and I would be more than happy to figure out how to send it to you.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah. That'd be cool.
We'll talk off.
They have gotten extremely expensive, so
especially now that everything's shutting down.
Yeah. I think that I liked Returns and Tropical Freeze enough that it's just like, if Retro can't do it, just put it to bed, let it rest for another 10 years, and then maybe have retro come back to it. AJ, you mentioned partner with Sony, get a 3D TV out there. Well, if we're going to be doing a big partnership, let's partner with Microsoft and have Rare make another country game.
Except it'll come that's not the game Rare. It looks like they have the same artists, to be honest.
But Rare's not the same. Everybody who's left Rare who made Donkey Kong.
That's actually true. I mean, it's a different Rare, but it's Theseus's ship, right? It's how much institutional knowledge is there remaining in the studio.
Okay, WandaVision.
But I think that Rare could do a good job. I really enjoy Sea of Thieves, and I think Sea of Thieves artistically definitely proves their chops.
Can I throw something off the wall?
Go for it.
Drinkbox Studios.
I know the name. What have they made?
They're the Canadian, Toronto-based developer, actually, behind Guacamelee, Severed, Guacamelee 2, and the upcoming Nobody Saves the World.
I'm on board with that because Guacamelee is artistically incredible.
It's just like, I think what the series need, and it's the same thing the Mario, whatever the current iteration of the stupid Mario series is. It's
stupid like Mario.
You know what I'm talking about? The Wii U the Mario Wii and Mario
New
Wii,
Super Mario Bros.
The new Super Mario Brothers. Thank you. This art style is flat. And I feel like they've went to the well with the Donkey Kong Country art style quite a bit too. I'd like to see them shake things up and do something different and not have Drinkbox has a very unique style to it. Although I think with the Nobody Saves the World coming out, it looks like it's quite a bit different because the Guacamelee and Severed have a very distinct look to them. And then this looks different. I'd like to see a different artist take on it who can make a good platformer. And maybe, just maybe, let's switch up the Donkey Kong Country play style and maybe build more like an open world with like Metroidvania elements into it because they're good at that.
That would be interesting.
It's an idea that like the kind of purist inside me is like, I don't know how I feel about that, but I'm definitely open-minded. I'm definitely willing to see what that looks like.
Okay. Tell the purist inside you to take a backseat for a moment, and I just want you to just think about this. I'm going to say something. Donkey Kong, Breath of the Wild.
Okay.
Nathan was like speaking my language, and then he said Metroidvania, and I was like, ooh, I'm backing off of that. And then you said Breath of the Wild, and I'm just going to tell you to please excuse yourself.
Wait, do you not like Breath of the Wild either?
No, I mean, if you want to get into that, I think Breath of the Wild is a good game. I think that it doesn't even make my top 5 Zelda games, probably not even my top 10. But it's a good game.
That's kind of where I feel with the Breath of the Wild too. A lot of people put it at number 1, and I'm like, it's not.
Oh no,
like
not
a top tier Zelda for me whatsoever.
It's not Majora's Mask.
Or Wind Waker's my top Zelda, and followed by Link's Awakening.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Majora's Mask, Twilight Princess, Wind Waker, Ocarina, Link's Awakening, Minish Cap. Actually, I really like Minish Cap.
Good one. Yeah.
Donkey Kong, King K. Rool's Mask.
Oh, you know, AJ, earlier, if you had
You're
said
just trolling us.
AJ, if you had said Donkey Kong Country Genshin Impact earlier instead of Breath of the Wild, I would have been way more down with that. I mean, there are so many.
Maybe you would have been. Yeah,
there's so many Kongs in that series that you can have as gotcha pulls. That would have been a real moneymaker for Nintendo. But
Hatsune Kong
universe, Hatsune Kong.
Oh God, I'm going to have a heart attack on this podcast.
All right, everybody. Thank you, as always, for tuning in to Press YYZ. If you enjoyed what you just heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share us on our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitch, rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, hang out with us on Discord, invite.gg/PressYYZ to do so, and check out our Twitter account, @PressYYZ, to stay up to date on when we go live and post new episodes. Next week, on April 7th, Nathan is going to be hosting a WrestleMania-themed episode of the show. To coincide with WrestleMania 37, we are going to be building the ultimate video game character-themed WrestleMania card. So please, look forward to that. Until next time, thank you for playing.